cool, the GTR. Oh, sweet. Never seen one. I've never been close to one. Except at a car show, it'd be super sweet to detail one. So waiting for it to come in, doesn't come in. I'm like, oh, it got pushed. And I saw that same thing go on for, I want to say, 3 or 4 months before the managers were like, okay, just break a window. Like, I think they ended up breaking the windshield to get the keys out of the car.
Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and today's video is going to be a little bit different compared to what I normally post on this channel. We're actually going to be interviewing an ex Carvana employee and basically asking them everything that we can about the business to figure out exactly what is happening with Carvana. Now, I do have some quick recommendations for this video. This will be a phone call, and so just use the YouTube subtitle feature if you're struggling to understand what the person's saying. I'm going to do everything I can to make it so the audio is as clear as possible, but just a recommendation. The subtitles are usually relatively accurate. They're not perfect, but they're usually pretty good. But with that being said, a huge shout out and thank you to this ex Carvana employee for doing this interview. And as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And if you want to see more content just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post these videos every single day. Let's get into it. So we are currently on the phone with our ex Carvana employee that is going to tell us everything that has been happening. So hello.
Hello.
And we're not going to name any names just in case Carvana decides to be crazy, like I said at the beginning of the video. But anyways, when did you start working for Carvana?
I started working Carvana November 30th of 2020.
Okay. And then what was your position at Carvana?
So my position was a lot attendant. It's pretty much their name for pretty much a glorified car washer.
Glorified car washer.
Yep.
That's a funny way to put it. And so what was like your daily tasks associated with Carvana, and then who did you have to work with, whether it was management or customers associated with the company?
So pretty much we'd just be doing, they like to call it detailing, but like I said, it was just pretty much car washing, vacuuming the cars, giving them a wipe down on the insides, and then giving the outsides a wash before the customers actually saw the vehicle. So we would report to our managers, and then we really wouldn't have any customer interactions. We'd pretty much be behind the scenes. Occasionally, if a customer came, to the back of the building where we were at, we'd answer a couple questions or steer them the right way. One of the advocates wasn't there. So that's pretty much what our day-to-day entailed.
Oh, that makes sense. So then I have to ask, this is actually a bonus question. What was like the condition of most of the cars that you were cleaning? Would you say that the condition of the cars was pretty good, or did you notice anything weird, like, I don't know, check engine lights if you were to like move a car or something like that, or just, things that could be wrong with them?
A lot of the conditions, they were so-so. When I first started, it was a lot worse. As for like cleanliness wise, a lot of the vehicles came in pretty rough shape. So we'd have to do a lot more work to actually get them out to an acceptable condition for the customer, what you would expect from a normal dealership. But as for check engine lights, I'd probably say maybe 1 or 2 a week. I worked at 2 different hubs. I worked at one in Ontario, California, and I worked at one in San Antonio, Texas. And I would say between the two, they were both fairly consistent. They both didn't have very many check engine light problems. It's just typically a lot more issues that you would see when, during the inspection process. And I can go into that a lot more if you would like as well.
Yeah. What did you kind of see there?
So a lot of what I didn't see a lot of the inspection process going down, but based on just what I've heard and what people were telling me, because I would always, when we weren't busy, I'd be hanging out inside with the managers and stuff and talking with them. So based on it, pretty much was just kind of a look over of the cars, and it wasn't really like in a real in-depth process, and they actually changed it. I want to say 3 or 4 months ago, from the 150 point inspection they advertised to just an overall inspection. So I don't know if anybody actually ever caught that, but they did change it. So, we were always seeing issues with cars with shocks because they never actually drove them off the property. Cars would never go over 5 miles an hour. And I would see a lot of cars too that, that they would come in, seats are torn, especially with a lot of the cars that we've got. We had one customer who probably went through 15 Maseratis with us, Ghiblis. They were all in just horrible shape, and he'd just keep swapping out of them because they were so bad. Check engine lights, stuff like that. Stuff that could have been caught in the inspection process if people were actually doing it. It's just, they just kept getting through.
That's crazy to hear. That makes sense. And then the next question I had was, when did you quit Carvana? And then also, why did you end up quitting?
Yeah, so I left the company about a week ago, 3 or 4 days. So it wasn't, it'd be November the 1st or 2nd, if I remember at this point. So I left the company. I was on a thing where it's like you have a 1, 2, 3. The third time, it's pretty much I'm done with it. I'm not going to be doing it anymore. So they got their first strike, their second strike, and most of that was just because we worked a 6 to 2 shift. That's a lot of time. We get at 6 in the morning, we leave at 2, and probably within the last almost 2 years that I was there, especially more so at the San Antonio location, more so than the Ontario location, was that we'd be required that if like a logistics truck, a lot of the logistics trucks actually arrive same day. At least the schedule. That's one of the reasons why I left was if the logistics truck, they leave for Austin, Texas in the morning. They drive back to the inspection center in San Antonio, and then they drive back up to the vending machine, which is like a 40-minute drive from the inspection center. So what would end up happening is, they got caught up at Austin, or there's an issue, traffic or anything, and the truck arrived at, 1, 2 p.m., and then we had 6 vehicles on that truck that needed to go out. We were expected to stay until all the cars were done. And if the truck was early, perfect, cool, no problems. But, like I said, if it was late, we pretty much got screwed. And management, 9 times out of 10, wasn't coming outside to help. We'd still be there busting cars out. Management's packing up to leave. They got in, 2 hours after us. So it's kind of like, it got tiring, but the workplace was pretty solid, though. I mean, I got to say, otherwise, it's just, a lot of mismanagement, misplanning went on for sure.
Yeah, wow, that sounds like a nightmare. That is an absolute... Yeah, I would not want to deal with that whatsoever. Sorry, I just had to quickly reset the clip on the camera because I was running out of battery right there. But anyways, what are the issues you see with Carvana overall? I know that you kind of answered some of them with the reconditioning, but I guess are there any other issues that you see with the company right now?
I would just say a lot of management, stuff that could be easily fixed. It's just, the problems keep growing and growing, and, the people really that work in the issues don't really complain. And when they do complain, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to talk to our managers about it. So, and then the managers, they have a lot of stuff coming in, both from the advocates, which are the kind of the salespeople, and a lot of tenants, the people they have to report to. The kind of the small issues end up just getting shoved under the rug. Countless things, just running out of chemicals. We'd let them know, hey, let the manager know 3 or 4 times that we're running out of chemicals. The hours things. If you have to leave early, I know there's one time I left early. I wouldn't say left early, but the truck arrived late, and I had something pre-planned, and they were like, okay, well, we're probably going to have to go look at the attendance policy again, which I was like, okay, yeah, go ahead. Like, I'm technically past my shift, so I don't know what you're going to do. So.
Yeah, they're like, oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's just definitely managers. A lot of inexperienced managers, people that didn't know how to manage previously or don't really have the managerial leadership skills that end up getting put in those positions, which I think end up bringing the company down. I think you could kind of read that everywhere, especially when we had the huge layoff, was just people complaining about management, and I could definitely see that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so this is the big loaded question then. So after working for Carvana, would you buy a car from Carvana, or would you recommend someone that to buy a car from Carvana with everything you know now?
Knowing some of the stuff I've definitely done as a lot of tenant, I wouldn't recommend it if you're getting a sports car. If you are going to do it, kind of do it to get a feel for the car. Use the 7-day return policy, come in with the credit union, get that car. I know some people that have taken cars out to go do donuts early in the morning before anybody gets there. So definitely don't keep it if you're going to get a sports car, or if if it's the actual dream spec. I'd say it's not the last priority that you want to do. Just know that somebody most likely in Carvana has gone through, and I'm not saying everybody does it. There's of course the honest people there in the hubs that people come in at 6 in the morning, so there's actually no possibility of doing it. But just know that most likely somewhere in the chain of Carvana, it's going to be driven pretty hard. But if you're going to get a daily driver, I'd have to. If you're kind of shopping around, you don't know what you want, I'd recommend use the 7-day return policy. And then if a dealership around you has one, I'd say go to the dealership. Just a lot of things that we see, like especially in detailing, especially we're the first ones hands-on with the cars. And a lot of things I see with the cars are, dumb mistakes, dents in the roofs, stuff like that you typically wouldn't see at a normal dealership. And, especially a lot of the things I see with pushing of customers as well. And I can go into that as well, more if you want as well.
Yeah, what do you mean? What do you mean pushing with customers?
Yeah, so a push, what we call it internally, is pretty much when we have to reschedule a customer. If you're scheduled, let's say, for tomorrow's sake, you're scheduled for the 10th, and the car isn't technically in San Antonio IC yet. You could be driving in. We had a customer driving in from Fort Stockton, Texas, like a 4-hour drive into San Antonio, and we didn't contact him until an hour before his event that his car wasn't going to arrive. And he took a bus. He was already on the bus coming to get his car, and we had to reschedule him. And of course, you can just imagine how mad he was because he was, he paid for a bus fare to get to San Antonio to drive his car back.
Yeah, I would be frustrated too.
So a lot of that goes on, but that's driver call-outs. It's kind of human stuff, but it's typically not planned. But just pushes are pretty common. But safety stuff though, they won't deliver a car with a check engine light, at least for our hub. So that's kind of some pushes that mechanically you see. But I've seen some stuff where, I recommend stuff. And I'm like, hey, this probably isn't right. And they're like, oh, we'll have to send it through. We'll have to do it as an ASR, they call it, an after sales repair. The customer will get it delivered, if they want. They could choose to do it as a pre-sale repair. But, a lot of, paint chipping, bug etching on the front. A lot of rental cars go through there. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for a car from Carvana. A lot of rental cars go through there from Hertz as they partner with them. So, kind of just look a little bit more closely at the car. I see a lot of those come through with paint defects or interior defects. But, like I said, though, I wouldn't, if you're going to get a sports car, I definitely would use it for the 7-day return policy and then go find one locally that you like. I'm pretty sure whatever dealership might have done something to it. But, with Carvana, I know I've personally done some dumb stuff, and some of the people I worked with have also done some dumb stuff. So it's definitely not a, if you were getting a Corvette, it wouldn't be, good. You wouldn't see it, but it probably did happen,
Yeah, I get that.
It was a 09 GTR, because when we first popped up on it, I always looked ahead of the schedule just so I had an idea what was coming in for the week.
Mm-hmm.
The GTR popped up, and I was like, oh, cool, the GTR. Oh, sweet. Never seen one. I've never been close to one. Except at a car show, the super sweet to detail one. So waiting for it to come in, doesn't come in. I'm like, oh, it got pushed. And I saw that same thing go on for, I want to say, 3 or 4 months before the managers were like, okay, just break a window. Like, I think they ended up breaking the windshield to get the keys out of the car because none of the local locksmiths could get into the car.
On a GTR. Gosh.
So they ended up breaking the windshield on a GTR to get the keys out because it was cheaper to replace the windshield.
But so someone had purchased that and it was just sitting there for months waiting for it to get delivered. Wow.
Yep. Yeah. So when you the way Carvana set up is actually none of the actual vending machines have inventory. Whenever you see cars there, it's either cars that are sold, cars that Carvana bought, or just trade-ins. So all the inventory is kept at what's called the inspection center. So they're just big plots of land, and then they typically run a second delivery hub as well. So typically if it's a bigger city, I know in California there's a delivery hub of vending machine, at least in the Inland Empire area. There's that way, and it's the same thing in San Antonio. So they have the inspection center that feeds both of them. And so the car was at the inspection center for that. And I couldn't imagine how much fun that was, but... Yeah,
I can't imagine buying a car and then not getting it for 4 months because... And then someone had to break in a window. Last question is, what do you see for the future with Carvana after working for them and everything that you saw? Everyone's seen the news with everything that's happening with the stock being down a massive amount and, sales being down and all that. Do you see Carvana surviving, or what do you think is going to happen?
I think it's a few years out, but I think, when I joined the company, they're going through a huge boom because of the pandemic. And then, I've kind of seen it drop off where we went from, even tax season this year where we, jumped up in people. And we walked into 10 car days, and we were expecting 40, 50 car days to happen. we come in with 3 or 4, lot attendants in the morning, and there's 10 cars to do for the day. So tax season this year was definitely down compared to last year. So I think probably a couple of years. I don't think we'll see it super soon. I think in probably the next couple of years, we'll probably start to see them decline even further, even more than they are now. But I think it's definitely happening, especially with the amount of loss of trust they've had, with consumers, and especially with how much it's been put out there on the news.
Yeah, that makes sense, but I really appreciate it, and for all of you that are watching this video, that's going to sum things up. If you want to see more content like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post these videos every single day. I'll see you guys.